fantastic, amazing, evening, or not evening, and welcome to Richard and Carl Presents Deep Space and Dragons, a show that we have people listen to our entire 2-hour episode segments where we complain that Dune is a better Star Wars movie. I'm Richard, one of the hosts of Richard and Carl Presents Deep Space and Dragons.
And I am Carl, and I hope I'm the other host.
I mean, we have a rotation of Carls, but none of them know each other.
Oh.
Yeah, no, this episode,
Dang
we
it.
record it nightly. There's 7 Carls.
One for each day of the week.
Yeah, Sunday Carl is weird.
So what's new with you there, Richard?
Well, other than the core topic of the episode, I recently learned yesterday that I got a thing published in a thing, and I think that's all I can say about that. But I'm happy.
Wow. A
Yes.
thing published in a thing.
Yeah, I don't really want to give more information than that in case, them listening are like, hey, we didn't say you could tell people you were published in the thing. Who do you think you are? Gloating early. We're going to take this away from you and hit you with it.
Oh.
Maybe. I don't know. But with that, what's new in the Carlverse?
Oh, I mean, not a whole lot. I mean, despite spending a couple days there with you, I didn't really talk too much about Magic cards. So I'm a little bit excited because my mono white deck that I've talked about in depth in a previous episode, probably more depth than the show needs.
No,
managed to
I
pull
feel
off
like
its
the
first
problem
win.
was the episode wasn't on mono white. And we tried to shove an actual topic in there when there was no need for that. The real takeaway is to let the show write itself.
Well, anyways, my mono white deck managed to net its first win with one of the cards that I thought would actually help it win. It's too expensive to be played normally because it costs like 10, but it destroys all non-artifact permanents, which includes lands, unless they're artifact lands. So naturally, the deck has
But
quite a
was
few
it
artifact
fun?
lands. And so then, yeah, you destroy all of their lands, and then they can't recover because the deck is built around cheap creatures and pump them out as quickly as possible. So I played it and I won because they couldn't come back.
Nice. I enjoy this revelation of sorts. Because it's always good when you manage to make your hobby. Actually, I'm just happy for you as a friend. I get joy in the knowledge that I can imagine in my mind's eye the people you beat. And then I laugh a bit, because it fills me with joy that they were defeated. And so whilst you were playing card games and finishing your vacation, I was playing catch-up in my writing den. So,
Right.
I had to do a take-home test thing. And one of the questions, I just read the question wrong, and I wrote a really nice paragraph. But it didn't answer the question at all. So at the bottom of the take-home test, I put in brackets, the following paragraph did not successfully answer the question, but I liked it, so it's been included in here if you wish to read it.
Just misread the question.
Well, it was asking about imprints instead of about presses, which are different things. An imprint's like a sub-branch of a press. So, I wrote about this weird press I found so the press gives all their books away for free,
Okay.
pays the authors for their books, and makes all their money through Patreon and merch sales. So they pay authors for books to then give away for free to then hawk merch.
Ah.
And I'm like, that is a fascinating model to be like, all our books are free. Enjoy your free books. But you're a book company. And my brain had to was blown away, but unfortunately did not actually answer the question of my test. It was just really interesting.
Yeah, imprints and presses, just ever so slightly different.
Well, an imprint is literally a sub-branch of a press. Harlequin romance novels would have an imprint for pirate Amish-themed romance or something. And that way they can specialize their catalog. It's an unrelated TED Talk. I would just not go down that rabbit hole. It's too close to my day job.
All right, well, I mean, I guess then we might as well just launch right
The
into
most
our
important
topic.
part of the episode, which allow me to explain. So, take your mind's eye backwards deep in time to last Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
The sun was shining. The birds were singing. Carl has learned to drive less extreme than the behemoth roller coaster. Perhaps, or maybe it was just the time of year. And something important and life-saving happened. Because you see, last time we met up in person, you thoroughly stomped me at Bouncy Castle Boxing. Destroyed me. But as I proved to myself and the world on the Wednesday that followed, I was able to defeat you at go-kart with my complete disregard for the life of children.
You did almost run those children off the road.
To be fair, they had helmets.
I had a hard time passing them because it's like the signs were very clear, no bumping.
So I didn't bump.
There are two things that are very clear about that go-kart track: no bumping, and remain seated until all carts have come to a stop.
Exactly. There was no rule against running children off the road to beat your friend at a petty go-kart race. Nowhere did it said I was responsible for other people's safety. It's like I'm not touching you because I use my infinite void domain, so you exploded on it. It's complete fair game by the rules as written, as that go-kart track stated. This was my win. I beat you at a driving game once.
That you did. That was pretty fun.
Oh yeah. Although I will say that hill where it's like, man, I don't know if it's because we're in our 30s or we've developed fear, but we're both like, well, we can't just keep the gas at full speed down this hill. But if we stop and really think about it, there is no way they engineered that go-kart track to not expect people to go full speed down that hill.
Yeah.
Like, it was clearly designed to be able to make that turn at full speed. Like, easily. This is for children. But me and you are like,
I feel fairly certain that you could just have your foot on the accelerator the entire time.
Well, yeah, it would have been like designed to do so relatively successfully. And then meanwhile, me and you're like, oh, I don't know. What if we fall off this bridge and explode and then tumble off the waterfall and then die? Which, to be fair, gutting the go-kart from the track all over Niagara Falls, really cool way to die. I think I segued pretty nice into Karl-fest. So, first I have to ask, what were your thoughts on the fluffy cheesecake? Because that made it into the stream. Is this the one thing that's ever made you speechless in 34 years?
Well, no, that's not the only thing that's ever made me speechless, but I'm just trying to think, it's not quite as rich as a cheesecake. And just by itself, like, it needed like icing or a drizzle, or it needed something. I don't know, but just the cheesecake by itself, it just was like, this is.
Well, my point was less about how delicious I find them, even though I do find them delicious. But I also drink coffee without sugar because I'm dead on the inside. But my thing was, it was so hard to describe over voice that I needed you to sample it to explain what this was, because it's like a weird new state of matter.
It is very it's delicious, but very strange.
Apparently it wasn't delicious enough because it needed icing or like a second dessert to cut through the first dessert or something.
Yeah, no, it was very monotonous. It's a very consistent, smooth flavor. I like to say that part of the joy of eating is like the variety of textures and flavors and little bursts of different ingredients. Whereas this, like the cheesecake, there's no crust. So it's like with a regular cheesecake, you have this incredibly consistent, rich, creamy cream cheese, and then you get this like crunch and burst of flavor from the crust. Where the fluffy cheesecake was all fluff and had nothing to break up the flavor.
So my immediate response is, well, you pair it with coffee or tea. But I never offered you coffee or tea with it.
You did not. You just gave us cheesecake.
Which, to be fair, I don't regret that choice. Although I do, as a side tangent, it's funny when your phone alarm goes off because it's like, man, I feel like your ringtone can get us copyright claimed if it goes on too long.
Okay, you're right. I should turn my actual phone.
No, you should turn your ringtone to something copyright free. I think you missed the takeaway here. It's not that you're such a big shot you're not getting business calls and be like, no, stop your volunteer podcast with your friend and ignore your work calls. No, it's copyright music.
Well, I'm pretty sure that falls within like fair use. I mean, I guess if
Fair
we ever
use
did get
doesn't
copyright
exist in
strike,
Canada. We don't have that law. I wrote a full essay on this. So people
Yeah?
on the internet seem to, partly because we were enforcing that 30% Canadian media and grants to our media, then the digital age overwhelmed that. Exactly what the scholars feared in the 1970s. The American media has become so infused with the Canadian one, we've forgotten what our laws are. We don't have fair use. That law does not exist in this country.
Really?
We have fair dealing, which is a very different law. Because it covers things like university book samples and percentage of recordings, but like, no. Like, the magical law that protects Americans was based on a filing system.
Well, I mean, it doesn't exactly protect Americans because it's a judge has to rule that your copyright is.
Yeah, and they rule it based on precedent, which we don't have because we're Canada. Sorry, mini rant, or I'm like, yeah, no, I'm exactly educated enough to know that fair use isn't a thing in this country. And I feel like 9 out of 10 people, no, I'd go as far as like 99 out of 100 people would assume we did have one, because we have a similarly named law that doesn't do the same things. Oh, Canada. So to move back on topic. So,
Interesting.
I was displeased with the Coca-Cola store. I'm going somewhere with this. And it ties back to the cheesecake. So
Okay.
I love a good novelty store. You go to the Hershey store and they're like, would you like a 10-liter antifreeze bucket of chocolate syrup? That's the kind of novelty I live for. I'm never going to give them my money because I don't have any, because I'm a writer. But I love the novelty.
The fact that they have a 5-pound chocolate bar is what you.
They also had like a bunch of stations
store.
that were shut down that, probably due to COVID reasons, that when open were like, yeah, we'll like weld your name into a chocolate bar. Or like do your artwork out of Hershey's Kisses. And I'm like, that's the kind of novelty I live for, right? The Coca-Cola store had less flavors than my gas station. I'm drinking spicy raspberry Coca-Cola right now that I bought out of spite to the Coca-Cola store. Why would you open a Coca-Cola branded store and not... These don't go bad. So you just have a massive fridge of literally every flavor. And you upcharge it a bit. Like, why could I not see dates and times, like dated fridges with different flavors of Coca-Cola that say warning, not for consumption, that everyone would just drink anyway? Like, I want, like even at my college one time, they had, like, a Coca-Cola pop-up stand that was, like, cotton candy Cosmos flavored or some nonsense. I love me a good novelty beverage or food. Whether it's tasty is inconsequential to the novelty factor.
Yeah, like when I was in Japan, they had, like, Pepsi Lemon. And I was like, I have to try this. And it wasn't very good, but it was novel.
Yeah, from that same Japan trip, my brother brought me back wasabi Kit Kat bars, which were weirdly delicious, but not spicy.
Yeah.
And I was kind of disappointed.
I was also disappointed in the lack of spice.
Spicy chocolate is surprisingly legit. Just putting that into the cosmos.
But speaking of going through airports.
Yes. Ooh, you got detained?
No.
Did I sound too excited about that? My brain immediately played out the Hathaway's opening scene on an airplane.
that would have been actually exciting, but I've got monotonous bureaucracy.
Oh no.
Okay, now
to be fair, so bureaucracy should be monotonous. I want to go on the record. So some things are supposed to be boring. Like, if you taste the water's doing something wrong. If you notice the gooey elements of your graphics, it's doing something wrong. In class, we were looking at a list of things a publisher doesn't accept for fantasy magazines. They're like, no using thou or thy, or we throw your manuscript in the garbage. And I'm like, fair. If you notice the text, that means you're not imagining the story. And that's bad.
Right.
So bureaucracy, if you notice bureaucracy, that's bad bureaucracy. Exciting bureaucracy is a deeply problematic situation. Like, you do not need to open a gift box to see if you make it across the border.
Okay, but so firstly we flew into Ontario, and then from Ontario we flew to Nova Scotia.
Ooh,
To Halifax specifically, actually.
that sounds
Um,
fun.
Yeah, Halifax is a pretty cool place. But
Place of the fax machine.
but on the way back, this is the first time I've ever heard this. But we check in for our flight, and it's like, hey, do you want to like book an appointment to go through security of the express line? I'm like,
Seems sus.
well, yeah. Oh, it's free. It's like, oh, well, I mean, if it's free, whatever, I'll go do it.
Uh-oh.
So we sign up for the free express line.
Did they say you get a
and they-
free express line and they had people volunteer for cavity searches by telling them it was free? Like,
No, that'd be a fun story.
that is a great... No, I'm just thinking about like human mentality. I'm like, okay, you can't get people to file their taxes because it seems tedious. But if you tell them, hey, would you like free tax filing assistance? They'll be like, oh boy, would I? And you just give them the same software. They suddenly are happy about it. So I really got to wonder what you can make people do by telling them they win a prize.
Well, so we book our appointment, and you're allowed to arrive 5
Free
minutes
window
early or 5
cleaning
minutes
lessons.
late.
Free fence painting. That was the joke I was going for. Free fence painting lessons because it's so fun.
But so then we're sitting in the restaurant right next to the security. We're having supper before we go through security, and we're waiting for our check-in time. And it's like, oh, it's like completely like there's no lineup at all for security. But we get there and we're like, okay, so here's our boarding passes. Also, we have this QR code for an appointment, a check-in appointment, a security appointment.
Do we like
so they're
QR
like,
codes?
okay.
Let's pause for a moment. The existence of QR codes, are you for or against? Because like
I don't really have a stance.
Because at some point we switched to everything just being scanned. Like, I remember when we went through some of those museums, instead of a human being seeing our ticket, they had it go like they like walked away from the scanner because they were afraid it'd give them leprosy. And then like we had to scan the phone, then pass the phone to the person. Even though there was a human clearly there that could see we had tickets and their wax museum fraud could not have been that prevalent. So I'm just like, I feel like using the technology was actually less effective than a human being just reading it with their eyes and cost less.
Well, I mean, I don't agree. I think it probably costs less to do the QR codes, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know, because I could have just jumped it because there was no humans.
Well, there was a human. I told the human we had tickets, and like, okay, scan your tickets. And I scanned my ticket, and they got paid for me doing all the work. That's how the world is now, right?
That's bad usually, though, because usually there would have been two people, and now there's only one person, and they're falling into madness and start making it with the mannequins. Anywho, boarding fast story. Continue.
Okay, so the security agent is like, okay, go over to that woman over there with your QR code for security. And we start kind of walking, and it's like, we don't see anyone over where they're pointing. We're like, oh, that woman over there. It's like, okay. The woman they were pointing at was like directly behind a large sign. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's why we didn't see this lady. But so then we go up there, and I'm like, yeah, I got this appointment to go through the express line of security, even though there's literally no one in line. And so she pulls out her phone, and she starts trying to scan my QR code, and the app's not working, and the app's not working, and the app's not working.
I'm feeling so vindicated right now.
I spent, a good minute or two waiting for her to scan this QR code, and she's like, okay, you have an appointment, right? It's like, yeah. So she just let us go through. And I mean, that's before the bins with the rollies, so
yeah.
I would just be to skip the lineup to get there. But it was just like, so it's pretty funny that it was more inconvenient to use the booked QR code than it would have been just to like go through security normally.
So I think I figured out why I have like this weird QR code hang up, even though I put them on things and like have business cards with QR codes. Is I think it was during COVID where you had to like get your vaccine passport and then scan the passport. But people were more obsessed with the bureaucracy of it than the point of it. Because if you're like, well, I have this piece of paper with my birth date, name, face, blood type saying I got a vaccine, they wouldn't care. What mattered is the code being scanned. I'm like, you guys do realize that the code is less important than the virus, right? And that's kind of what's weird about some of this, like, scan with the app is you're putting all of your faith in this app, but the humans using the smartphone, the phone is siphoning their smarts. And we've just kind of given up on human beings being able to make judgment calls. Like, are we at the point soon where, like, you'll sit on the bus, and instead of the bus announcing the stop, you'll have to check your phone for your stop, and then you'll have to scan your phone to get off the bus? Like, this is weird. Like, we're really not helping phone dependency as a culture. We're kind of going in the other direction, and I don't know if it's helping. It might just be making us all slightly dumber by the day. Remember when we had to know phone numbers? Like, I froze trying to remember my phone number yesterday.
Oh, I know my iPhone number, and I know my parents' home phone number, and I think I almost have my girlfriend's phone number memorized.
And now I'm like such a sassy jerk where I'm like, just Google Richard Kivas. My name's on the book. I'll be the first 5 results. Pick one, message me. Show up to my podcast if you really need to get a hold of me.
Okay, so still on the subject of QR codes, the electronic boarding passes are also QR codes, right?
Yeah. Which, for the record, all a QR code is a website URL in the shape of squares.
But so the flight from Halifax had a layover in Toronto, and then we got on a different flight and flew from Toronto to Saskatoon. And I didn't realize, and it makes sense in retrospect, but I had 2 separate boarding passes.
One for plane A and one for plane B.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. But so I get to the security, and I'm trying to scan my boarding pass. It's like, I know it's my name because I also had my girlfriend's boarding passes on my phone. I was like, but I know this is my name. It would be really
funny if we just spent 22 minutes for you to get to the point that you're doing this podcast from prison right now and need me to bail you out.
No. But so
you would, by the way, be in jail and use your one phone call to do our podcast. You're that reliable.
But so the QR code's not working. I'm like, well, it must have not working. And then I look, it's like, oh, it's the wrong airport. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I must have scanned the QR code from my last flight. So I find the one for the YHZ to YYZ, and then I scan it and it works fine. Okay, cool. So then we get through security, and on the other side of the security line, you have to scan your boarding pass again. Mm-hmm. And so then I quickly open my phone and I go, and it's like, okay, YHZ to YYZ, this is the boarding pass. And I scan it, and I go and I start putting my stuff in the bin. And then my girlfriend is trying to scan her boarding pass, which I sent to her phone, and it's not letting her. And the security officer was like, "Hey, sir, did you accidentally scan her boarding pass?" I was like, oh, dang, I did. So then I had to go back and I had to scan my boarding pass again.
And the moral of the story is you're single now, and she's in another province.
No, it would have been not good if my phone had been going through the X-ray machine when we realized the mistake, but
because that's what I found so funny was the standing in a line and passing your phone back and forth. I'm just like, it was like the archaic technology of the spindle wheel paired with the QR code might have been what broke me.
at the museum.
Yeah, it's just so funny that was like the system, and we did that 3 times because the system is scan the first phone and then pass the phone along in a human chain to walk through the spinny thing that it was short enough I could step over. Because it was designed to keep children out. And even though I have an 8 in dexterity or a 7, I still think I could have parkoured it.
That would have been funny to see.
What would have been funny to see is when the wax statues came to life and dragged me away. But I digress. Please continue.
Well, I mean, that was after realizing the whole boarding pass situation. Then I had it all down pat. We got through security, no issues.
So,
pretty boring.
How's Richard's adventure went while you were doing that? I went to class. Mm-hmm. I slammed at my keyboard like the Kermit typing meme for 3 days. I slept, and that's it. It turns out it's really hard to get back in the groove of being a student after you have like a day full of adventure and fun. It's like being Luffy for a day, then returning to being me is not like a smooth transition. Like I got a bit of emotional whiplash because it's like, oh, cool, I'm up at 5 to be out the door by 6 to learn about the history of little magazines across Europe, which is interesting, but not at 8 in the morning.
Well, and I mean, it's far less interesting than going to like Peggy's Cove or Crystal Beach.
I'd say it's about equally interesting. Like, I'd love to combine those activities. Like, give me the book on, like, ebook while I'm on the beach with a mimosa. Boom. Like, there's a version of this, because, like I said, I'm in school for the thing that feels the least like I have to work for it.
So I did not really know anything about Halifax before I went there. I mean, I've been there before, but I had no idea any of the history of Halifax.
Yeah, I kind of like. I think I flew over to get to PEI, which tells you how good my directional sense is. Because the only place I've been further east than Ontario is Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, you would have flown over Halifax. Well, I don't know if you would have flown directly over Halifax.
I honestly don't know.
You would have flown over Nova Scotia to get to Prince Edward Island.
I'm mad we don't take more boats places. I know, like, it wouldn't have been practical for your trip, but how sick would it have been to take a boat from Toronto to Halifax around the coast?
Okay, side tangent.
Boats are the trains of the sea?
While I was away, my brother went on a kayaking trip. He bought an inflatable kayak, got dropped off downstream or upstream, and then just took the kayak back like 2 days of 25 hours of rowing. It was his total before he got picked up and went back home.
So most boats in my boating scenarios involve a motor that's not me.
Right, but so my brother, he does this trip, right, and then he gets back home, and a week later suddenly has a brace on his arm. I'm like, oh, well, what happened? He's like, yeah, turns out not doing any stretches or warm-ups before rowing for 25 hours gives you repetitive motions injuries.
What? No way. So I almost blame anime more than I blame your brother on this one. Because your brother will often do things that would make perfect sense on Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. And then reality will slap him in the face. And it's not his fault. Like, he's dreaming. He's daring to dream. But I'm like... I look at Miko. Miko looks at me. We both do the same stretch on the couch. And it's like, yeah, I should probably go for a walk. Because I've moved as much as Miko today. But I digress. So, you've never been to Halifax. Repetitive stress strain. And you went to beaches. I hear complete silence. Did you leave our podcast? Because I don't edit these out. But it's very hard to talk about Richard and Carl's adventures when you disconnect during the Richard and Carl's Adventure segment of the Richard and Carl Adventures podcast. So, this is deeply unfortunate.
I'm back.
I was only able to vamp for 3 minutes. This is a hard topic to just talk about without Carl. You missed the recap of... It's really hard to talk about Richard and Carl's amazing vacation adventure without Carl.
Okay, so I mean, I'm telling you stories about my Halifax section because you know all the stories about Niagara Falls.
But they don't.
And like I was gonna say, I had no idea the history about Halifax before I got interrupted by my own tangent, which then broke the internet.
Good job. The Halifax tourism board disconnected you before it got too spicy. I get it.
So apparently the harbor in Halifax is like
the Halifax, if you will.
It doesn't freeze over in the winter.
Wait, isn't that where the nuclear-esque explosion happened and we learned how bomb implosions worked?
Well, I mean, it was the deadliest. There was the deadliest man-made explosion before the dropping of the atom bombs in Japan.
Yes, that is what I was thinking. An anchor managed to make it to another city.
They didn't tell us that part. They did. They told us the story about how a munitions ship had a red flag to say that they were had live ammo. They lowered it for the night, and then they forgot to put it back up in the morning, and another ship ran into them.
So
And
the
then,
actual moral here is flags matter. People make fun of the flags all the time. The flags matter.
Yeah, apparently every window in Halifax blew out from the explosion, so a lot of people ended up going blind.
Oof.
Anyways, but no, the history that I was more interested in, and this is actually one of the things we need to go back for. It was.
I assume you mean back to Halifax, not back in time, because our time machine only goes forward, and it's just a brick, and I hit you with it, and you end up in the future.
Well, you're working on the time machine, but no, we need to go. Me and my girlfriend, and hopefully some other people, maybe, need to go back to Halifax because there's a Titanic museum there. When the Titanic hit an iceberg and sank, the harbor in Halifax was the closest harbor that wasn't frozen over. So they actually sent most of the rescue ships came from Halifax to pick up the victims of the Titanic.
Which is old enough that we can laugh at them now.
Most of them were dead, but there's 3 different cemeteries for victims of the Titanic in Halifax for the different denominations of Christianity that were on board.
You know what's always crazy about that? So Canada has this weirdest pop culture chameleon thing we do, where we'll take a piece of American history we're somewhat a part of and build a museum for it. And I just always think about the Al Capone sauce. Every time. Where it's like, Moose Jaw, famous for Al Capone. Halifax, famous for the Titanic. And I'm like, we did a lot of crazy things in this country. You know, we've done things that don't have major Hollywood pictures based on that. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. A major Hollywood picture about the Halifax explosion. That would be interesting.
That has to exist.
All the French sailors trying to warn everyone, but no one can understand because they speak French.
I know that's not supposed to be a comedy, but it is now.
Well, yeah, and then so many people were just standing at the harbor watching this explosive ship burn until it exploded.
Which is ultimately a tragedy.
Oh, yes. But it's been more than 20 years, so...
To loop back to our Niagara Falls adventure, though, I think the fun fact that broke me was, the 20 people who went over in barrels with varying degrees of dead, and the one guy who just jumped off the waterfall and lived. And the only thing that stuck with me from that moment be oh yeah, this guy just you know what? I'm not going to bring a barrel. They'll catch me. I'm not going to build a machine. I'm just going to jump off the waterfall. I'm like, is life just not that hard and we've all been trying too hard? Is the solution sometimes just you see the explosion, so try and missile launch or jump and the explosion will propel you out of the way of the explosion? Do we just die? Does humans' number one cause of death overthinking things?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, everyone knows that the fridge in Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that the nuclear explosion would propel the fridge faster than the explosion could propagate, and then it would work, and he would just be completely fine and have no broken bones or concussion or anything.
But what I'm saying is we're all handling nuclear bombs wrong. Most people go up down and dodge or go under their desk and they become a shadow baked on the concrete. You're supposed to jump and tuck and the explosion will just launch you out of the way. And then you'll bounce off 4 roofs and then come to a halt in some branches. If I've learned anything from anime.
Yeah, that does seem pretty accurate. And that does seem how you would accurately go over the Niagara Falls.
So, you know what's really funny about that wax museum we went to? Their most unintentionally funny joke. So, I'll let you give a summary of the experience rolling up to this wax museum so I can say my bit.
Well, I mean, in the main entryway, there's a couple of
Avengers.
Marvel characters, Avengers, yeah, and a Back to the Future exhibit with Michael J. Fox.
So, for those uninitiated, a wax museum is where they make as lifelike as possible wax replicas of things, and then we gawk at them. They're a weirdly ethical museum.
the life masks versus
Yeah.
they get an imprint of the celebrity or person's face, and then from that they try and create uncanny valley wax sculptures of people.
And then sometimes I'm like, wait, did they just put a wig on someone else? Or like a lot of them are really good and some of them are like eye wiggling a bit. But the funniest jokes they did by accident is we're heading into the quote unquote horror section and we're getting amped up. Your girlfriend's getting nervous because she's a connoisseur of horror movies but doesn't want things to animatronically jump out at her in real life because that shit's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I see as soon as I step into the horror section but a hyper-realistic Saddam Hussein? And I'm just like, I'm like, wait a minute. This is such a... They should have doubled down more, because later they had like an animatronic Cannibal Lecter. I'm like, no, you're so close. Put Hitler on that. If you just turn around and there's just Hitler standing behind you in this darkened hallway, that is terrifying. Way more afraid of them.
Yeah, it was like Saddam Hussein, Vladimir Putin, and then Vlad the Impaler.
And I'm just like... Someone has a sense of humor, because I thought that was really funny that you hear like the bats, the spooky music, and just actual real world horrible monster. I'm like, is this in poor taste? This feels in poor taste. And then like at the very start there was like the tech billionaires, the Musks and things. I'm like, oh man, it'd be really funny to have the alien from Alien, a steam jet shootout, and just Elon Musk's face an inch from yours.
Ooh.
I would have had so much fun with that. Just putting actually terrible-ish people in the horror section, the actual horror monsters in like President Lane. Like just have like all the presidents and Frankenstein just in the same room with the theme.
Yeah, that would have been pretty funny.
Although I did have to go like, ugh, Trump is such a fictional character. It's weird to see him wax a statue of him with real people. Like he feels like he's not real, right? Like it's like when they did like the hyper-realistic Homer Simpson coming out the wall, where like this is just uncanny valley. Like it shouldn't be a real thing. So that was my thoughts on...
Besides the go-karting, what was your favorite part of going to Niagara Falls?
Well, as much as defeating you at things is always deeply satisfying. So, I know this is going to sound old-fashioned, but I still am infinitely amused just looking over the majestic waterfall and feeling the mist on a hot sunny day. Like, that's just peak amusement. Gift shops are funny. So, each gift shop we went into decreased in quality at like an exponential curve. So the first one's like a nice upscale mall right on the water, cafe above it, brightly lit, colorful. Mm-hmm. You could buy zipline tickets. And the last one was like dollar store basement with no windows. And I'm like, so like as much as I enjoy like mall walking across the strip, I just found that to be particularly amusing. Like beating you at go-karts is definitely the high point of my day. Probably would have been the high point if I had lost or tied. Actually, probably would have been more of a high point if it was like a photo finish. We literally had to look at the photos to see who won.
That would have been awesome.
But like I said, I was there for the ambiance. Like I had a solid 12 hours of making fun of you. So like the activities, as entertaining as they were, like the Wax Museum was amusing. The Hard Rock Cafe was less about me, like it was amusing, but wasn't so much my vibe. I think I had more fun making fun of the pricing.
Yeah, I mean, like...
As you tried to sell me for a sweater discount, and they're like, for our sweaters? You don't get the full sweater for a human being. They're like, no, I'll knock like 20% off that for it max.
Man, that freaking $200 paint sweater is so cool, but it's $200.
Yeah. And like, as you mentioned, like, the food was okay, but like, crust could have been crispier if I'm being pedantic about it. But the whole point was to go look around in the ambiance, right? Like, it was a cool place.
Right.
Because when you're going novelty, you go all the way. You don't go to Disneyland to eat at an A&W. It wouldn't make sense. So, like, I definitely like the mix of things, for sure.
Funny enough, the day after Niagara Falls, we went to Square One for a while because we needed to kill some time. And
what time did you do that? I was like 10 feet away.
There was like a clothing store that was going out of business. So
no, seriously, what time were you at Square One?
That's well, checkout was. I think we checked out at like 10 o'clock, and then got to square one around quarter to 11.
So I just got out of class at 11 o'clock.
Ah, yeah.
So, like, I could have grabbed lunch, but you're also on a time frame. I just find it funny that there's a version of reality where I get out of class, walk across the street to buy lunch, and I just see you there. Like, that could have happened. It was so close to just a bit like, oh, hi there. Because running into you deliberately is funny. Running to you randomly is hilarious.
But there were options in the food court that we didn't have back home, because we didn't go to the food district. We went to the actual the food central. The food.
I only like the food district wasn't recommended for eating so much as iconism. Iconism? Yes.
Anyways, we ultimately decided that we wanted something familiar, so we had KFC.
Fair. But, like, back to some of the attractions. I think the attraction that was much higher quality than I expected was the selfie studio. That one caught me off guard because that was amusing. But I don't think it would have been amusing if we didn't have 3 people to play photographer with, right? Like,
it would have been more difficult, that's for sure.
Like, I feel like 4 people would have been the perfect number for that, and then any more than that, it wouldn't have really worked, and any less than that, it would have been forever alone.
Well, yeah, because it's like they had varying qualities of selfie stands. It's like, why didn't they just all have the same good quality stand? But I don't know if they expect you to like carry it around, but a couple of them didn't even have selfie stands. But as Richard had said, it was the selfie options themselves were quite intricate.
Well, it was amusing too, because like I said, a lot of the activities are like theme park activities where it's hard to be, this was my favorite activity, and more walk, talk, and mock is just peak TV. Like, I just got to people watch and mock you is fantastic. But I will say, the Ripley's Believe It or Not, and this feels like the worst possible place to ask you this. Did it feel mildly racist to you? Because, like, the first room, there wasn't a sign that said, mysterious elements of the Orient, but that was the vibes? Like it felt like, because let's be realistic, Ripley's Believe It or Not is based on freak shows, which were, in fact, very, very... Take woke and inverted and you get a freak show. Literally the opposite of woke by design. So when they're like, look at the amazing Asian man with a candle in his head, I'm like, is this historically accurate offensive? Are you... It's almost like if the entire thing was more period dated. It's like, yes, warning, you're going in a freak show and this is triggering and it is a replica of what it was like in da-da-da-da. It almost would have been less offensive. Like if it had the Warner Brothers This Cartoon Was Written a Different Time logo on it.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think it was racist, because I think it was just actual genuine discoveries.
Well, it was interesting too, because it was like, you got to group them somehow, right? So it's like, I don't know what I would have done, but it felt not bad, but off. Like, I'm like, I might have just spent too much time in the liberal arts.
The world's tallest man that like sat in the chair and then stood up and you gotta shoot.
That was legit.
Height next to him. He felt out of place in the first room because the first room was largely artifacts or people or stories from the Orient, the middle, and
Asia?
then the music was.
I swear they just Googled YouTube copyright-free Asian music for background for YouTube and content creators.
Yeah, I don't know if it was necessarily authentic music, but I mean, it gave the vibe. But then there was like a couple things where it's like, oh yeah, also there's this like bubblegum sculptures.
And the shark made out of pop tabs.
Well, see, that was the bubblegum sculptures were in the first room with like the jade.
Maybe that's what caused the issue. It might have just been good old-fashioned dissonance, where part of it felt like it was on a theme.
Well, like I said, the world's tallest man was not Asian, and he was kind of in the Asian section.
See,
for no particular reason.
Maybe it was just the music. I wonder if it was just the music then. If they had literally just had nothing playing, it might not have triggered it.
I don't know. That was the one that was definitely the most noticeable because, like you say, there was the most dissonance between adjacent displays.
And
Exhibits.
the shrunken head exhibit felt kind of tasteless. Not sure why. It felt like it was one sentence away from being a British man being like, and then I went in and discovered the savages. I'm like, no. No. Bad. But also there's a lot... That was an interesting walk through that Ripley's. Like, I'm glad I went through it because it was fascinating. I'm not just here to dunk on it completely.
It's very difficult to display history in that way, that kind of history, because of the lens through which it was discovered in the first place.
And because they were trying to give it a freak show aesthetic, did not do them any favors. Right? Because it's when you're like, here's a cultural artifact next to the world's tallest man, you're saying that cultural artifact is as weird as being 7 feet tall. And then had the poster, weird, ooh, aw, and you're like, you're walking a line, Ripley's. I don't think they crossed it, but I felt like they were walking it.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely a lot of very interesting things. And I have no idea how to discern what sort of bias might have been there, because it was a broad spectrum of exhibits.
Also, wasn't a new museum either. Like, they've added things to it, but...
I mean, like you say, there was like the pop tab shark, or there was the spinny tunnel that was almost impossible to walk straight through.
The spinny tunnel was great. That did psychic damage. I took 3d4 psychic damage and fell prone, like...
Or there was the room where the floors and the walls are not the right perspective, so you walk across and it looks like you're getting bigger even though you're staying the same size because you don't match the perspective of the floors.
Yeah, so like, honestly, I was more on board with the weird art. Although I will mention, it's like, they also just kind of like had coin machines. And I'm like, guys, just remove the coin. No one has coins anymore. What are you doing? Just let me play the game. Why are you even pretending? Like, what are you doing, guys? What are you doing? I stare at them directly. But that whole area, that whole Clifton Hills outdoor theme park combined with random shops was just like such a vibe. Like, oh, there's just an upside down house here. And I'm like, who were the architects of this and what was their plan? Like,
I think that's an exhibit that you can buy tickets for, but I have no idea.
But like the overall theming of the area is just so random. They're like, Speedway, okay. Dinosaur Golf. Movie Land Museum. Zombies? And I'm like, what is happening? What are you... Are you trying to be Paramount Studios, but like royalty free?
And then like the zombies was 4D.
One said 5D.
Then there was one that was 6D.
I love to assume they're just directly competing. I loved that idea. That's like, well, your ride's only 4D, mine's 5D. Why? I have a guy come up and hit you with a wet towel while the VR's going. And then it's like staring at the cruise ship, being like, "Oh, that's so much money to stand on a deck with a poncho."
Yeah. But when I got back home, I was talking about how I went to Niagara Falls, and one of my coworkers was like, "Yeah, you should go on the Maid of the Mist because it's a cool thing." It's like, oh yeah, I have always wanted to, but it's just too expensive.
But it is also so cool. And like weather pending too. Like I eyed that water park for a while and was like, should I have made a push for this? But there's water parks everywhere. But it's hot and there's a water park there. Stairs. Also, random statues and things. Like I love just be like, here's a Tesla statue because he helped make the electro dam based on his research. I'm like, you only put Tesla here because I feel like they have Edison on the other side and this statue is put here out of spite. Don't get me wrong.
On the American side.
I love the hypothetical that the American side is just a Bizarro World version of every attraction.
Instead of an upside down house, it's the right side up house.
It's the same house. Ripley's, believe it or not, is just replaced with Ripley straight up facts. Boring, everyday, mundane facts.
Oh, that sounds like the name of my show.
You know, unrelated. So I'm on the Clifton Hills website right now, just as like a reminder of the things. And they're like, Dino Adventure Golf, one of Canada's largest mini golf courses. I'm like, that doesn't feel right.
A large mini golf course?
Well, we saw the Dino course, right? That does not feel like the largest mini golf course in Canada. There's no way that's true. Like, my brain's just kind of glitching. I'm like, no, we walked around it. They're using these photos in a wide-angle lens, but it was like a 3-minute walk around it. So, for the record, I'm not saying you can't have a giant mini golf course. I actually support this decision. What makes mini golf fun is putters and dumb attractions. If you took a regular scaled golf course but put giant dinosaur heads on it, golf just got better.
Yeah, Dinosaur Adventure Golf Course is the biggest mini golf attraction in Canada, featuring 2 18-hole courses named Raptor and T-Rex.
Did I just miss a course?
36 holes, 3 ponds, and an active volcano that takes the ground when it erupts.
It just...
That sounds like it almost would have been worth doing.
Right? Like, it didn't... I feel like I got hit by like an optical illusion or something. Huh. Well, note to self. I have this $1 off coupon here for Dinosaur Adventure Golf. I will remember this.
Well, we do have to come back because we missed our chance to go to the Butterfly Conservatory, even though we have tickets that are good for a year.
There's so many things about that. From it closing like 8 hours earlier than everything else, to the fact it never occurred to us that the Butterfly Conservatory would close, to the fact that they're a 1-year ticket. What do you mean it's a 1 year? I have never in my life seen a 1-year ticket for anything. I'm still absorbing this knowledge.
You buy the tickets in advance and can go anytime within the next year, yeah.
Yeah, what is that? Like, that is insane to me. I have never seen something that you can go anytime in the next year. Like, imagine you bought a ticket to Dune and used it to see Dune 2. Like, this is just chaos. What? Although, to be fair, the idea of, oh no, we can't give them this much power to go to look at butterflies whenever they want. But still, it broke me a bit. My brain's like, what do you mean it's good for a year? That's actually insane. Right?
It is a little insane.
I'm not crazy. I've just never actually... Well, I'm a little crazy. But I have never seen a 1-year ticket. But yeah, other than the missed butterfly opportunities, it was just a fun time. 10 out of 10, recommend. Yeah. And not just because I didn't have to pay for anything.
You had to pay for one thing. And that was your weird coffee drink at the...
The timing was off on that one. I was mildly annoyed where it's like, oh, order this drink at the same time they're ordering a dessert so I can sip it while they're eating the dessert. Finish dessert. Here's your drink. Sorry, it's late. I'll just sip this by myself and look at the guitars. It's fine. It was a delicious drink, to be fair. I mean, an espresso martini isn't a weird drink. I feel like our audience would know what an espresso martini is.
Well, I mean, I'm just not big on coffee, so...
I actually just don't know our audience that well, let's be real. I don't know if an espresso martini is a thing in Athens. I'm making a lot of assumptions here. It's kind of like pineapple pizza, sometimes Hawaiian pizza. Sometimes Canada, because we're really like self-conscious, doesn't rate Canada on our things, so it's really hard to tell what's a Canadian thing. Like Boston pizza. Yeah, calling you out, Boston Pizza. You're not even an American company.
Well, yeah, that's because the person who founded it thought that they would sell more stuff if it sounded like they were from a big city.
And the worst part is it worked. So it's like, it's hard to tell what kind of things, like, yeah, espresso martini. Watch that just be a Canadian drink, and anywhere else on the earth, they're like, what are you talking about? Martinis have olives, stupid.
Can you imagine if your martini just had a coffee bean on a stick?
I've seen them garnished like that, but there's usually also like the espresso in it.
Mm-mm.
Also, one time I did make the birthday mistake of ordering a vodka martini with olives.
Oh.
That is by far the worst thing I've ever consumed in my life.
Did you eat the olives?
Yeah, they weren't the worst part.
What even is a martini?
So, a vodka martini. Welcome to Cocktail Hour with Richard and Carl. I'm literally Googling this because it's been a while since I've had my Pro Serve. Okay. Gin, vermouth, vodka.
Huh.
You notice that none of those ingredients are tasty and can all be used to cure paints.
What is vermouth?
So, how can I describe vermouth?
It's made by fortifying wine with alcohol.
Vermouth is not a good tasting alcohol. I'll start with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the martini, it sounds classy, but I don't think I would like it.
I think you'd like the glass more.
Martini glasses are sick.
Literally, they take wine, the worst alcohol, and then add more alcohol to it, and occasionally add some spices to pretend it's flavored. Oh, it's like, do people, like, one of the first Google searches, like, do people actually drink vermouth? And they're like, you can drink it over ice. You can, but it's usually diluted with tonic or soda. I'm like, wow.
Usually it's diluted.
And it's like, yeah, no, when you add an olive to something for flavor, you have a problem. Anytime olives for me are a palate cleansing food. You eat an olive to get whatever other flavor it is out of your mouth.
Right.
Right, like you eat an olive, then you eat a bite of feta and a Greek salad, and you get the full value of the feta. It's the whole thing. If you're putting an olive in a drink, you've already... Well, either... What's the quote? It was like... Did you ever see that TikTok video about the obelisk of ham? Where someone's like,
No.
Is it organic? And they're like, ma'am, that is a fused, emulsified obelisk of meat. It is an unholy creation that proves that either God is ignorant to the horrors in his kingdom or impotent to change them. That's my thoughts on when you're putting olives in drinks.
Okay.
Like, you're just like, I would just put an olive in this because... I'm like, because why?
Because the vermouth tastes terrible, probably?
Yeah, you eat the olive to get some of the burning out. But you've already soaked it in more alcohol, so you, drown your alcohol with a shot of alcohol.
But so your espresso martini was delicious, though.
Oh, yeah, an espresso martini it's only a martini because of the glass.
Yeah, okay.
Espresso martini, and the one I had there was I'm trying to remember the full ingredient list. But it's effectively some vodka, and then it's Kahlua, sugar, and espresso shaken in a classy cup, usually with a couple coffee beans sprinkled on for good measure.
Yeah, I mean, if I liked coffee, that would probably be delicious.
Yeah, so you would be like, can I get espresso martini sub coffee with hot cocoa? Although, to be fair, it's coffee liqueur. The espresso, not so much, but if I made you an espresso martini, hold the espresso, so I just put Baileys and alcohol together and put it in a nice glass and put peanut M&Ms on top or something for you. Probably do the trick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Baileys.
You're not
Which
not
has nothing to do with Niagara Falls, but...
If it was a salted caramel or something.
Salted caramel Baileys is delicious.
Yeah, this could be done. But with that... Time for closing remarks about the adventure. So to give a recap, we watched What We Do in the Shadows, because just going to shout out a fun vampire show we could probably do a full episode talking about. We paid for all-day parking, which was hypothetically useful, but in practice frustrating.
Yep.
I say we like I paid anything. We enjoyed the scenic view of the falls. We went to all of the tchotchke stands. I was happy with Hershey's, disappointed with Coca-Cola. We went through some museum tours. We stared enviously at dinosaur golf. We enjoyed a high-speed race. We got jump scared by Saddam Hussein. That's just so funny to me that they actually did that.
Right.
Nearly died to the infinite Tsukiyomi tunnel in the Ripley's museum.
Oh yeah, that's a killer tunnel.
And all in all had a lovely adventure.
Lovely adventure.
So, do you have any closing thoughts on Karl-fest 2024?
As far as Niagara Falls goes, not really. And think I told you all the most interesting stories about Halifax.
Excellent. And yeah, no, I just got a story. I got a thing published by a thing and caught up on schoolwork.
All right.
And with that, we get to our random question time. I don't know if I've asked this one, but your answer will have changed anyway. If you could bring back any fashion trend, what would it be?
Ooh, I don't know if you've asked. I don't think you've asked this one. I mean, I don't. I was trying to bring it back in Niagara Falls, but the
ponchos.
No, the sweater tied around your neck over your shoulders.
You had such a look going. So my brain was on a similar wavelength, and I'm like, classy hats. Neckbeards took away fedoras from us, and I want them back. Like, you can wear a fedora if your shirt has buttons. That's just the rule.
So my iconic hat, as you put it,
yeah, turned to dust.
My classy dollar store hat. I took it off to put in the bin at the airport. And I don't know if it got lost in the X-ray machine or what happened to the hat, because by the time it came out of the X-ray machine, I had already forgotten about it and grabbed my bags and just was on my way. There was another bin that someone had forgotten a fanny pack, and I was like, oh, they forgot their fanny pack. Then I'm sitting on the airplane and I'm like, where's my hat? So
here's what I think happened. So this dollar store hat was only designed to last one day. It absorbed a lot of photonic radiation from the selfies, mist from the falls, and spite from the Butterfly Conservatory. So it became a cursed relic. When it got hit by those X-rays, it just turned to dust.
Maybe.
It just didn't have the structural ability to survive being scanned at the airport and just dissolved into the ether from whence it came, having fulfilled its purpose. It was a Mr. Meesing situation. It did what it was supposed to do. And then it moved on to its afterlife, having achieved its goal.
Okay, so you want to bring back fedoras, and I want to bring back the sweaters over the shoulder.
Yeah. Specifically, though, I want to bring back fedoras paired with button-up shirts. Because if your shirt doesn't have buttons or tassels, or even like ruffles or something, if it's with a t-shirt, that's what ruined it for the rest of us. A nice hat paired with a t-shirt ruins it for everybody. But the sweater shirt saved you. All right, and our second and last random question of the day. Yet again, not sure if I asked this one. I really need to start check marking these after I use them.
Right.
If you could master any one skill without any work, what would it be?
Ooh, I'm pretty sure you did ask this one, but I don't remember what my answer was. So now I gotta think very carefully.
I'm gonna give a half-assed lazy answer instead of a cool answer. Because I want to be oh yeah, I want the 8 eyes in infinity. No. I'm just gonna straight up master website design. HTML, Java, style sheets. I just want a complete mastery of website design right now. Because that lets me still do my current job, but also have a much more employable, useful skill I could tell people I have tomorrow.
Well, actually, I think
because I don't want writing, because I enjoy working to master that. But I would love to just picture what I want done on my website in my brain, and just be able to do it without having to Google the steps.
I'm going to go for something slightly more abstract.
Oh, are you going to be that guy that shifts your abdomen muscle like a generator to survive underwater in cold temperatures?
No. I've watched quite a few movie YouTube videos about what makes a director's style, and more so it's what does a director actually even do? How do when someone says this Sam Raimi style, right?
Yeah.
I would love to just be a master of. I mean, I guess it'd be my own style of movie directing, but the recognition is this person is a great director, and this is their very distinct style. It's I don't know. I don't know how you would go about becoming a master of your own style.
You want the skill to be an iconic director. That's
yes.
Well, my college has a 4-year bachelor's in film. That would be step one.
See, the problem is that the question was without putting in the work.
Oh, yeah.
And the other problem I have is that while I have gained a greater appreciation for what actually a director can do to elevate the script into a great movie, I do not currently have any of the hobbies or skills required to become a master of the craft.
I will say, there is one other skill I'd really like to have, even though it's completely useless. So, in my algorithm, they like showing me this D&D archer with a stripper pole who does, like, upside-down stripper pole archery shots.
Okay.
And I want that skill. The ability to hold himself upside down with his leg muscles, draw back a bow, and fire at a moving target while singing. Like, that's just insane. Like, if I was just a master archer for no particular reason, that would be really funny.
This is probably horribly illegal. I don't know how you go about hunting a bear with a katana, but I would love to be skilled enough with a katana to be able to hunt a bear.
And Genie, what skill would you like mastery of? Hunting bears with katanas. Alright, done. Carl, just wearing a bear, holding a blood-covered sword, what happened to you? I'm cursed. The bears find me. It never stops. Anywho, to those listening to Richard and Carl Presents Deep Space and Dragons, where we talk about nerdy stuff in wax museums, submit your random question by clicking the Submit a Random Question button in the video description for your chance to win a Deep Space and Dragons coffee mug like the one possibly on Carl's desk. And get your question read on air. Fancy smancy.
Yeah.
Also,
I don't have the mug on my desk, but I do have the mug, and it is one of my favorites.
And just between you and me, one specific listener. If your question is literally, hey, Carl, I wanted to ask a random question. Can you call Vlad an idiot to his face? Who's Vlad? Or, hey, Carl, can you tell Richard he's stupid? That counts. That counts. You could use these random questions just to make us insult each other.
Well, I mean, what if I say no? Can you call Richard stupid on air? He's like, no. Sorry, I can't do it.
And I'll be like, wow, Carl, you disappointed our fans. I'll call you stupid on air. And I think that's it. Thanks for listening this long for one reason. You lost 1 hour and 7 minutes of your life. Congratulations.
Well, I mean, they probably lose more of their life to hot dogs, so...
To be fair, they're probably also listening to this on a bus, and the alternative is bussaromba and ambient noise.
Ooh.
We are better than most mass transit services for entertainment value. Bye.
Bye.
Although we're less awesome than that train Hydra in Phantasy Star Online 2, which is the Hydra made of bullet trains that shoots tornadoes. I don't think it'd be fun to be on, but it'd be fun to observe. Well, how did I not make a butterflies in joke?
I don't know.